Hello, friends and fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. My name is El, and today I come to be honest with you. So I find that it is very often when we are perusing social media that you find most people tend to only want to share their best days with you and their best selves, and they tend to not really share their shadow experiences or their more difficult times. So today I was sort of feeling in this sort of mood, you might say, and I'm trying to think of what kind of podcast should I record, what should I do? What should I talk about? What are the types of things that might be interesting? And putting a lot of pressure on myself and realizing that, I can probably just share my state of being with you right now, this sort of shadow work that I'm dealing with and this 3D confusion and some of the things that I like to think of while I'm going through these things, and maybe you may resonate with them and they might help you in your path. And so let me just begin with a Law of One quote here from session 106.23. Ra states, "We suggest the nature of all manifestation to be illusory and functional only insofar as the entity turns from the shape and shadow to the one." End of quote. And so maybe you're going to get an idea of where I'll be heading here, but the idea is that it's okay that we are in this third density confusion. In fact, we incarnate here behind the veil into this planet, and so that we may be confused. And so if you are confused and you don't know exactly what to do, hey, good news, my friend, you're in the money already, right? As we all are. But the idea would be is that, when we get confused and overwhelmed with the shadows and not knowing what we should do, often this little reminder, right, that the entity should turn from shape and shadow to the one. I suppose the idea is that all of this manifestation, all of this illusion is basically useless unless you use it to be catalyst to inspire yourself to become more close to unity, which has many aspects of it, unity, but one of them being like love and unconditional love and understanding. And so you may be confused and you may feel like your heart is sort of breaking, but it's generally okay to be feeling in these moments because this is the part of being human, and part of being human is doing your shadow work, but then knowing that better days are ahead and seeing these challenges as opportunities to serve, maybe to serve other people, maybe to serve yourself as you would the Creator, right? You are a perfect aspect of the Creator yourself, and you deserve respect, and so you should take care of yourself in these ways as well. But use these moments and be kind to yourself, and remember that although you may be confused and not knowing exactly what to do, it is the nature of our experience, and it is the reason that we're here. And so if confusion lay upon you, your free will is sort of in a maximum state, which is a great aspect of what we're trying to achieve here is a free will choice to choose, either service to others or service to self, to basically choose to serve yourself as maybe the most important part of creation, or, to serve yourself and all other selves as worthy sort of equal aspects of the Creator, right? It's not necessarily that you're better than somebody else. It's just more that, hey, we're all in this together. Let's try to help each other out. Let's help myself. Let's help each other. This is the way. So a little bit more about how third density is intense and meant to confuse. And so this is going to be from session 20.24. Ra states, "The mind-body-spirit complex of third density has perhaps 100 times as intensive a program of catalytic action from which to distill distortions and learn teachings than any other of the densities. Thus, the learned teachings are the most confusing to the mind-body-spirit complex, which is, shall we say, inundated by the ocean of experience. During the first, shall we say, perhaps 150 to 200 of your years as you measure time, a mind-body-spirit complex is going through the process of spiritual childhood. The mind and the body, not enough in a disciplined configuration to lend clarity to the spiritual influxes." End of quote. So there's a bit going on in that quote, but what I want to highlight there is that it is, like they say, perhaps 100 times as intensive program of catalytic action from which to distill experience and understanding through, than any other density that we're going to be going through either in the past or in the future. So where you are right now is the most intense place. Do know that. I don't know, it just sort of helps me cope with some of the shadows in Shadowland here, and maybe that might help you cope a little bit as well with it. But, what resonates with me a lot is this, shall we say, being inundated by the ocean of experience. That very much resonates with me. I'm sure it does with you. You sometimes think that, you're doing pretty well with your catalyst, you're starting to understand your lessons and the sort of spiritual spiral that goes around from a higher perspective each time. You're thinking, hey, I've got this, but then then the ocean of experience hits you like a wave, right? Like you're standing on the ocean, just sort of enjoying the look, and all of a sudden a rogue wave comes out of nowhere and takes you out, and all of a sudden you're mucking around in the mud and the waters and being thrown about. And very much I feel like that is the nature of our experience here sometimes. The tides, go out and they come in, and sometimes the experience is very confusing and we're inundated with an ocean of it. And sometimes, things are a little bit more chill and calm and all is well. But either way, right, we want to stay focused, and that no matter which of the sort of experiences are happening at the moment, we try to understand that we are here to learn to love and to open our hearts. And basically all of this experience is to try to get us to crack open that heart and to learn to love. So I suppose the harder times can be more easy to cope with when we remember that. And then they say also in this, during the first, shall we say, 150 to 200 years of you measure your time, you're going through a spiritual childhood, as the mind and the body are not enough in a disciplined configuration to lend clarity to the spiritual influxes. So the way I sort of read that is that as we attempt to enact the spirit or enable the spirit, I'm not sure what activate the spirit, I suppose might be a way to say it, we're working with Shadowland at this point. And I do have a quote about this, about Moonlight and spiritual truth being sort of like trying to discern the truth through the shadows of the casting moonlight. It's almost like where we are in third density isn't true truth of the sun coming directly at us. Metaphorically speaking, we're somewhat veiled from the truth, so our experience seems to be a reflected light that comes off a metaphorical moon, and the moon reflects the light back to the earth, which then we try to discern, hey, is this light coming from the sun? Is this the truth? Or has this light been distorted by the moon and is creating a shadow and is here to confuse me? And this is the idea of third density, is that they say it actually doesn't matter whether you're seeing truth or falsity. The truth is still veiled in perceived falsity. It's hard to explain. It's basically how they say is that truth is still projected in shadow. And then there's also shadow, which is true falsity. And so it's this here. I'll read you the quote. I'm trying to get off track here, right? So they state here in session 80.8, you may with some fruitfulness consider the possibilities of moonlight. You are aware that we have described the matrix of spirit as a night. The moonlight then offers either a true picture seen in shadow or chimera and falsity. The power of falsity is deep, as is the power to discern truth from shadow. The shadow of hidden things is an infinite depth in which is stored the power of the one infinite creator. The adept then is working with the power of hidden things, illuminated by that which can be false or true. To embrace falsity, to know it, and to seek it, and to use it gives a power that is most great. This is the nature of your visitor, and may shed some light upon the power of one who seeks in order to serve others as well. For the missteps in the night are, oh, so easy. End of quote. So this is actually a really funny quote, and over the years, the more I read it, the more it tends to make a bit more sense to me. So like I was saying here, we are in third density, the third density light of the sun, which is sort of like the ultimate truth of the creator coming from the sun, is instead of us getting to fully experience that, we are in third density. That light of truth gets reflected off the moon, and then the reflections of the moonlight can then either have a truth that is delivered in shadow or a shadow that is delivering falsity. And it's really hard for us to determine which is actually sort of a bonus of third density, in that you can't prove anything exactly. You can't prove that spiritual truth is an absolute truth, because even this truth that you have holding in your hand of the spiritual truth is a truth delivered in shadow. And so this is actually the wonderful thing about third density, is it allows each entity to use their free will, to really use their, inner mind or discernment or whatever you may call it, to make that choice. Even when it seems that somebody can be holding a truth in front of them, they can decide, hey, that's sort of a false truth. That seems like a shadow truth to me. And at the end here, they mention, the power of falsity is as deep as the power to discern truth from shadow. The shadow of infinite things is an infinite depth in which is stored the power of the one infinite creator. That gets pretty esoteric as well, but the idea, I suppose, there is that the infinity, the one infinite creator, infinity, is a word, which is hard to describe because there is no word that can contain infinity, and therefore hidden things, mystery are often things of the creator. And so, within us trying to seek these hidden things in this mystery, we're sort of seeking within the shadows, and those shadows can, like they say, they can reveal hidden things, and they can also reveal falsity. But tying this back into the previous quote about the spiritual childhood, you could consider that we have a shorter lifespan on Earth, which I'm not going to go into, but most of us live to barely 100 years. And so if we were able to live to 150, 200 plus years, more than that, we might actually start to finally be able to understand these shadows, be able to understand these reflections off the moonlight, be able to understand the influxes of spiritual energy coming through to us. Because to me, the spiritual energy, spiritual truth, it comes through very subtly, and we sometimes have to have the discernment to be able to make clarity of it. Which leads me into this next quote from session 7930, where they mentioned about shadows being sort of beginner thoughts which have not been yet fully conceived. And so, right, even if you are mucking about in the shadows, you can consider that sort of to be okay in a way, and that, these shadow aspects of yourself are you trying to sort of understand archetypes of within the mind and use them. And they state here in session 7930, by shadows, do you mean what I might refer to as the birthing of small archetypical biases? Ra answers, Ra, I am Ra. Rather, we would describe these shadows as the inchoate thoughts of helpful structures not yet fully conceived. End of quote. So inchoate, I had to double check that definition, basically just means something like in its beginner form. It has not fully formed into like a fully structured thought. And so like they state here, we would describe these shadows as the inchoate thoughts of helpful structures not yet fully conceived. And so when you're mucking about in the shadows, I consider that to be that you're trying to get to the truth, you're trying to understand the truth. And so as you work with that shadow, you hopefully can shed some light upon it, as it may be called, and hopefully find some truth in that. But I guess the idea is that you're aware that you're on the path, right? You're not lost in Shadowland. You just haven't yet fully conceived the helpful ideas that are trying to be delivered to you, the helpful catalyst that is trying to be delivered to you, and so it sort of manifests in a shadowy type way within you and within your biases. And how I found a lot of these quotes today is I basically just went to law-of-one.info, as I do sometimes, and I typed in the word shadow, and I just sort of went through some of them. So maybe if you want to find all these quotes really easy, you could do the same. You'll probably get most of them at least. So this other one that I have saved, which is this inspirational part here, okay, where the shadows are very convincing, they're confusing, and mostly, like I said, convincing. Shadows are convincing. They can be overwhelming, and they can help make you feel like, man, what's going on here? Like, I'm so lost. What do I do? What the hell, man, right? All right, well, Ra mentions here, may we ask the student to look up from inward working and behold the glory, the might, the majesty, the mystery, and the peace of oneness. Let no consideration of bird or beast, darkness or light, shape or shadow keep any which seeks from the central considerations of unity. And that's end of quote. And that's from session 97.9. That quote always really stuck with me. Let no consideration of bird or beast, darkness or light, shape or shadow keep any which seeks from the central considerations of unity. Right? It's me trying to tell you here to, hey, don't mind the shadows, right? Like, we still are working on what we're working on seeking the truth, and we're making headway as we seek, we will find. But keep going. But then at the same time here, there is also mentioning, don't let, the bird or the light, right? They did mention the beast and the shape and the shadow, but they also mentioned the bird and the light. And so even when things are wonderful and happy and loving, right? You don't want to get lost in consciousness about not considering unity. Like, when things are going well, I find that if you are still focused on unity and focused on love and understanding and spiritual seeking and using your catalyst in a conscious fashion, then maybe the shadow times don't need to come upon you so hard. But regardless, right, they're trying to tell you here, whether bird or beast, darkness or light, shape or shadow, Let none of that keep you from the central consideration of unity, which is that we are all one, my friends. We are one. We are from one heart. We are from one creation. To hurt me is to hurt you. To love me is to love you. To love you is to love me, etc., back and forth, vice versa. And so I'm going to leave you with this last quote from session 102.21. Now that I've mentioned a whole bunch about the moon and its shadows, this will maybe make a lot more sense. So they mention here in that session, the healing hands of each have limited use when the distortion has so many metaphysical layers and mixtures. Therefore, look not to a healing, but to the joy of companionship, for each is strong and has its feet set upon the way. The moon casts its shadows. What shall you see? Link hands and walk towards the sun. In this instance, this is the greatest healing. End of quote. So we may go out and we may want to heal and to do wonderful things and to be of service to others, but sometimes, like they state here, the healing hands of each have limited use. We are infinite beings, but we're third density creatures, and they do have certain limitations upon us, right? So especially when we're in a third density illusion, where the distortions and the confusions are many, there's often not one reason for any kind of sickness or distortion within somebody. There's many metaphysical layers and mixtures of distortions that are causing issues within people and shadows and all that stuff that we seek to help them with, okay? And we can seek to help them with that, and maybe we will, and maybe that would be great. But even as you're doing that, right, if you're unable to offer service or healing to somebody, just remember the companionship, the attempt, the intention is what is of importance. As I sit here and try to communicate this love to you, it's not that I'm doing it in a wonderfully articulate way. It's more that I'm just trying. I'm here and I'm trying. And they say, therefore, look not to a healing, like look not to a specific outcome, but look to the joy of companionship, for each is strong and has its feet set upon the way. The moon casts its shadows, my friends. What shall we see? Let us link our hands together, walk towards the sun. This is the greatest healing. I love you guys. Big hug, big love, big energy out to all of you. I appreciate you. If you appreciate my service, could you please give this podcast a like, leave me a comment, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And if you find value in what I do, I would really appreciate it if you could join this freely give and freely receive attempt that I am doing with this podcast, where I give you nothing other than, my weekly podcasts and my posts on Instagram and my messages here and there of love. And that, yes, if you find value in what I do and you would like to freely reciprocate, I do rely on the charity and love and consideration of others to join my Patreon and to shoot me a one-time PayPal here and there. It really does make a difference. It affords me the time to do these types of things and to keep the quality high. And I really, really appreciate all of you who do that and, put your money where your mouth is and trying to make this world a better place, and that you feel that I'm a worthy entity to, put your energy within and to assist and help. And so I thank you guys, even those that can't join, I would thank you as well. No problem. I love you. I just want to serve. And if there is anything that you can take from this, please take it. And you can drop the rest if it doesn't resonate. All is well. I love you guys. Take care. My website is theoneinfinitecreator.com, and I hope to see you there. There's links to all of LL Research material as well, who provides us all of this for free. And as I like to say often, thank you to them. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care.